All right, welcome everybody to the fourth monthly steering committee meeting. There's a typical agenda that we normally go through. We go through the project lists, and then various SIGs and working groups can talk about things that they're working on. I know this past month has been a very busy time amongst many of the SIGs. I know SIGs documentation and Luna and Quay Search team have been doing a lot of work around Docs 2.0 and having some working group sessions there. The Praetor team, after receiving funding from the community pool, has given an update in the most recent SIG provider meeting about the progress that they're making as they're continuing to work on the Helm charts and moderation API from the spec coming out of the working group content moderation. Again, amongst a number of other things that have been happening across many of the SIGs and working groups. So thank you, everybody, for all the hard work this month. But without further ado, I'll be taking notes in the background, and I'll pass it off to Anil to get us going.
Thanks, Tyler. Hey, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get going with this and not keep everyone here for a really long time. Awesome. So hopefully my screen comes up now. Yeah, so as Tyler said, we typically go through three main things on this meeting. We review, discuss, and address any community feedback. We review the projects list, reprioritize things if necessary, and then open it up for any questions or questions from anybody on the call. So one of the things I want to do today a little bit more deeper is, and it'll come up as part of the project list, is I wanted to dig in a little bit in terms of understanding the progress on the testnet for GPUs and where we are at with that and what we can do going forward to make sure that it is successful and the GPU launch is successful. So that's kind of the things that that I had on my agenda here. I guess before I dig into the projects list, I want to give everybody a chance to, talk about any feedback, any topics that they want to bring up, any things that have not worked well last month or since we met last time, or any sort of conflicts, anything at all that anybody wants to bring up. I'll give a couple of minutes to see if anybody has any of those. Go ahead and raise your hand or submit submit something in the chat if you have anything in terms of feedback for the steering committee.
This is Greg. I think there is an unresolved issue with CloudMOS funding. I did give my feedback, and obviously a proposal that went online did not incorporate the feedback. So I was very clear on my support as a steering committee member. Of course, I didn't vote because validators vote on the proposal. But I was wondering if Max is on the call for to update us on the progress on the feedback on the resubmitting the proposal based on my feedback. If he's not here, I would imagine he abandoned the proposal, and we can move forward.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Max is on, and yeah, that was something I was wondering about as well. I was hoping that Max would be on here and we could talk about whether he's planning to resubmit a proposal with a more broken down stages and smaller amounts of funding for each stage. But it doesn't look like Max is here. I don't know. Does anybody else have any? Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
I just pinged him. I see if he jumps in.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the next item on the agenda.
Okay. I guess nobody else has any feedback that they want to bring up. Cool. Okay, so going through the projects list here. Last time we went through this in pretty great detail. We talked about every single project here and also reprioritized things. I made changes to this right after that meeting, after the March steering committee meeting. So we didn't have a meeting in April. We were going to have one last week. We moved it because lots of us were out and at a conference and with other things. So this is the next meeting. And so most of this is prioritized. I don't think there's anything that needs to change here. But, please speak up if you think that something needs to change. I'm just going to go over over the main ones that are in progress right now and talk through them. But at any point, if somebody feels like something is missing from this list, or the order of things needs to be changed, please speak up or submit feedback in the chat. So the first one here is console authorized pen support. This is kind of on pause right now because the effort in console is on trying to get GPUs and RPC support right now, and that's kind of part of the second thing here. Hey Max, thanks for joining as well. Yeah, so that's kind of number one. The second one is GPU support, and this is where I want to spend a little more time talking about how things are going on this. So just to recap for people that are not super familiar with what's going on here, is essentially we added support for GPUs within the core code base. Arthur was primarily leading this effort and launched a testnet on this about 3 weeks ago, I want to say at this point. And the initial intention or the initial thinking was that we would run this testnet for about 3 weeks. And then at that point, we would evaluate and see if we're ready to go to a mainnet or what we should do at that point. So some of us synced up internally, and I kind of wanted to open up that same discussion in this forum as well. So essentially where we are right now, and I'm going to click on this so we can actually go and look at, because all of this is documented publicly as well. Here is a sort of testnet progress thing that Tyler and others have submitted. Essentially, what we did is we did a inventory of all the GPU providers that have been spun up on the testnet right now, and this is kind of that list. Lists out the specific providers as well as the types of GPUs that are on there and the quantity. So it's on the one hand, it's great that so far there has been successful deployments of GPU providers, and as far as I know, there are no significant issues reported from these deployments. But correct me if I'm missing something here. All that is great, and huge kudos to Arthur as well as everybody else that was involved in getting this done. The bigger concern, though, is that this is a really small pool. It's a small pool both in terms of being able to get a significant amount of testing within the testnet, and it's also a small pool in terms of being able to go out and make a splash when we get to mainnet and be able to announce GPU support. So essentially the challenge right now is what we want to do is we want to try to get a lot more providers onto this testnet in the next week or two. And so one of the things that we discussed is potentially delaying the completion of this testnet by 2 or 3 weeks and working on number one, getting more providers onto this testnet, and then number two is potentially running a hackathon of sorts where once we have a sense for the types of providers we can get in the next week or so, we would then plan a hackathon maybe 2 or 3 weeks out, where we would try to get people to deploy AI models onto these GPU providers and try to do sort of a matching of type of AI model with the resources that are available. We started working on a spreadsheet this morning. Zach and myself are kind of collaborating on this, but we'll open it up generally as well. But we're kind of bringing up the various models according to the categories that they fit into, trying to find open source repositories where these models are available, and people can take advantage of them to deploy and run on Akash providers. So that's kind of an effort we're starting right now with the intention that potentially we could run this as a hackathon. What it would do is essentially do two things. Number one, it would validate that the testnet is working and surface any bugs if they exist. Number two, it would generate demand and interest for Akash GPU providers. And number three, it would give us content for being able to do a proper launch of GPUs on the mainnet. I know I said a lot of things there. I'm going to pause there, see if anybody has any other thoughts, questions, other feedback, things that I've missed in terms of the status of the testnet right now.
So just to clarify, Anil, so we're going to do essentially two sort of incentivized activities, right? First is going to be like doing a large incentivized testnet like we did with Akashians, the Akashian people remember, we were able to attract a lot of developers and a lot of providers using the testnet. You're probably thinking of doing something in those similar lines. One of the good weapons that we have now is access to hundreds, if not thousands, of miners through some of our partners that interact with a lot of ETH miners. So we assume ETH miners have GPUs. It's not assumed; it's a lot of data. Actually, we do know that they have GPUs, and we're hoping to reach them. And I think there's a way for us to get these email addresses so we can actually reach them and invite them to participate in the testnet in exchange for some tokens. So there's some incentive for them to to give their GPUs to Akash Network, right? And once we have a sufficient load of GPUs, we'll do a hackathon on the demand side to attract the model. So once we launch mainnet, it won't be just GPUs, but it will have the supply and the demand and a buzzing network instead, because GPUs are perhaps our biggest sort of milestone. We've always been about GPUs from a very, very long time. And this is, we feel, is a huge milestone because we can now offer something the market really, really demands. So that's the plan. If anyone has any thoughts, suggestions, concerns, now is the time to talk.
Yep. Thanks for stating it so clearly. That's exactly what it is. Those two things is number one, finding more providers and incentivizing them to get on this network, and then number two, running a hackathon so that we can generate enough buzz as well as test out the providers and the deployments before we go to mainnet.
And also, we want to do. I also want to propose doing this hackathon in a little different way. Before, it was primarily OverClock Labs doing end-to-end, right? Promoting everything. But now we have a community, so I want to do a working group to run these testnets as well as hackathons. Of course, the working group will be comprised of community as well as OverClock employees and others, right? And if you want to partake in organizing these two events, please let us know as well.
Yes, exactly. And as far as logistics of that, we have a working group for GPUs. We'll just handle it as part of that. So we'll schedule any calls under the WG GPU and including the hackathon as well as any provider setup, work office hours for people that are struggling to set up a provider. I know I see a bunch of hands up, so I don't remember who was first. Probably Andrew or Alani, one of you guys.
I'll go first. Sure. Thanks, Greg, for the update on that. And it's really exciting to see that GPUs are now in testnet. This is great. For me personally, one of the stumbling blocks that I've had is that right now the current spec, as I understand it, does not support mixing cards underneath a single provider. So the example would be, you have a 3060, a 3090, a 3080, and kind of a grab bag of cards. Right now, it's my understanding testnet, we don't support a way to choose by model, and we don't support a way to choose by memory. And I think those two things would be really, really important to get into testnet and during the stage, because when it comes to scaling up, in terms of my experience in mining and background, finding miners or large amount of GPUs that are all the same is going to be a pretty uphill battle. Particularly with miners who have been, collecting GPUs year over year, it would be really, really nice to see that we get pricing for memory and for the model specifically would be great in the testnet and potentially before mainnet, because it's going to be really hard to set up providers with just one type of GPU. And just to finish there on my reality, I could set up a provider right now with a maximum of about 5 GPUs of one type, but I'm being held back from really turning on 25 GPUs because, again, I've collected over many years and have all different kinds of hardware. So I think a lot of people are going to be in that same boat.
Wait. Are you saying that you cannot select the type of GPUs as a tenant, Like to clarify, you're saying that I cannot
Yeah.
select a A100 versus an H100?
Right
Yeah.
now, you can only request an NVIDIA GPU from the provider, not I want a 3060 or I want a 3080 or I want a specific model. So then it means you need to build the provider with all the same type of GPU because you can only price it as one thing. It's an NVIDIA.
Right. So if I can
Let me jump in on that a little bit. Yeah, so that's correct. The GPU filtering will be available early next week. And that will be part of the this new testnet. So right now, yeah, as soon as the only GPU units are specified, there's no way to filter it by GPU type.
Yeah. And so just to add on to what Arthur said, and this is another reason for why we would like to delay the testnet completion date, is basically there are three things we would like to do from a development standpoint before we go to mainnet. Number one is what we just talked about, what we generally refer to as supporting attributes within for GPUs. So today there's no attribute, there's no way to specify attributes for GPUs when creating a deployment SDL. So that's number one. The second one is work around being able to test essentially an upgrade using CI/CD type workflows, and then third is a provider migration command, so that when we are ready to go to mainnet, there is a command for providers to migrate more easily. But Arthur, go ahead if you want to add something more to that.
Yeah, in terms of filtering from the tenant side, as well as what provider can specify on when they declare attributes. So for now, at least for the next phase of the testnet, there will be only option to filter by the model, not by memory. There are a couple of reasons for that. Number one is the data center GPUs. They are pretty much standardized on what type of what amount of memory they have. In terms of consumer GPUs, last, I would say, RTX 30 and RTX 40,000 series, they all more or less standardized on the memory sizes. So if you specify RTX, let's say 3070, the memory size is going to be all over the same, all over the vendors. We are thinking about making the different options, like specify the memory size and some other things. However, that will be covered as a part of new provider attributes that we are still thinking on, and hopefully sometime soon we will be able to expand that.
But you can treat a A140 as a different model than A180, right? There's no flexible memory on these chips. You only get fixed chips.
So an example, just of the memory situation on a 3060, right? There's two models. You can have a 3060 with 6 gigabytes or a 3060 with 12 gigabytes. So that's why there are chips out there and model types that have mixed memory. And then finally, just my last comment is to bring it back to pricing, right? So providers who are putting this hardware on the network, one of the first things we want to be able to set up is pricing for the models that they're bringing online underneath their cluster. So Artur, just reminding, again, we're those calls for pricing are going to be important too for being able to link that to the bid engine script.
Yeah, but the bid engine script is up to the provider what they want to, so it's not up to the Akash how the bid script works, right? So provider will be able to put different bid options for different GPUs. Same as
yeah. I was just looking to make sure the 3060 can be priced different than a 3090, right? That's Thank you.
Alani left the meeting. Adam, you want to go? Adam Wozni?
Adam Wozni, go ahead. Yep. Did we lose him as well?
Oh, sorry. I thought can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, in regard to the hackathon, totally on board with that idea. We actually have a hackathon working group underway right now. We put up a governance proposal, budget's been approved. So right now we're at the point of selecting community support individuals for running workshops, scheduling workshops, finding other sponsors for hackathon tracks, and marketing the hackathon. The biggest question mark was like, what would the tracks be? And this is kind of one of the things that we wanted to plug into the hackathon is GPUs. So in terms of where that stands right now, next week, Monday or Tuesday, I believe, we're having our working group call to select roles from community members to help support organizing and putting together the hackathon, and then also a timeline. If I had to put a rough number on when we think the hackathon would be ready to go live, where we're accepting applications, the hackathon tracks have been selected, it's probably going to be about a month off. I don't know if that fits within the timeline of what you're thinking for this. It seems like it might not be, but putting all these pieces together will take a little bit of time. So I just wanted to kind of mention that as something to note.
Yeah, I think it fits the timeline. Like, we want to obviously incentivize the supply before the demand, right? It doesn't work the other way, right? So by the time we go ahead with the hackathon, we should have sufficient supply, let's say, tractor for machine learning like workloads to actually use a car. So I think it fits in well with the timeline.
Perfect. Cool.
Yeah, just to add on to what Greg said, basically the next 2 weeks at a high level, the next two weeks or so is going to be us focusing heavily on trying to get more providers on. So it'll be kind of on two tracks. One is hitting up everybody that, regardless of what type of GPU they have, what GPU they have, as long as it's an NVIDIA GPU, we want it on the network. It doesn't matter if it's a consumer GPU. It doesn't matter if it's legacy. If it's data center, great, but if not, anything works. Get those onto the network as long as it's NVIDIA. And then separately, we're talking with data center partners as well to try to see if we can onboard them if required with some incentives. And then, so, I would think that, there'll be some logistics in terms of planning for the hackathons. That'll probably take a week. So we're tentatively looking at, 3 to 4 weeks out, which I think fits your timeline.
Yeah, perfect. Next week is going to be selection of community support roles and the timeline. And then the week after was when I was planning on starting to think through what the hackathon tracks will be. And that's when we'll have a working group call, which obviously everyone here is invited to and the whole community. And then once we have those tracks figured out, then it's really execution. We'll have the timeline, we'll have the people that are supporting, we'll know what the hackathon tracks are going to be, and then it's going to be promoting it and getting people to sign up. So yeah, I think I would put a rough timeline around a month is when this would kick off, but just wanted to put that out there too.
Yep. And so for the very first hackathon track, I guess I'll say that, plan for something which is basically involving giving people a bunch of AI models that are open source and available in GitHub and having them deploy them onto these providers that have GPUs, and then tracking a few metrics around ease of deployment, time it takes to deploy, and time it takes to run inference, and in some cases fine-tuning. That's kind of the first track.
Perfect. I'll see what I can do.
Awesome. Cool. Arthur, go ahead. Arthur, did you?
Yeah, just one reminder about what kind of GPUs we support. So first of all, we start with NVIDIA, but it doesn't mean that we not going to support any other vendors in the future. It's just way easier for us to focus on one vendor for a number of reasons, like a driver support, provider side, and so on and so forth. Another thing I would like to mention about specifically NVIDIA GPUs is, well, I'm trying to say that we are supporting as much as we can. However, what GPU families are supported is totally depend on the driver that we install, and the driver obviously is what particular repository host.is is installing for the current version. So, for example, if that's going to be like Debian repository, is going to be something lightest. So we have to always check if the given family, if it's quite old, supported through the particular driver. Otherwise, it's going to be some unknown issues with that.
Yeah, so there are technically no limitations on what kind of GPUs Akash can support. It really comes down to the provider providing the GPUs and the drivers that support these GPUs. That's what Arthur is trying to emphasize on. Mello?
Yeah, Arthur, just to support what you were saying there, in my experience, 1080 Ti's are kind of going to be our lower end. We're not going to see much below that. It's an 11 gigabyte card, so it's still relevant for the AI workloads and is supported on modern CUDA, and still fine.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, thoughts about the plan at a high level going forward for the next 4 weeks or so?
Just one last point of clarity. So Arthur, it sounds like there's going to be a new release rolling that will support attributes with the model name within a week or so, a couple weeks on the testnet.
Correct.
Awesome. That changes a lot from a provider build perspective, right? If we were building with just trying to put everything all in one machine of one type of GPU versus, again, now I know I can bring online at least 25 GPUs once that update's ready.
Excellent. Awesome. So that's GPU test net and general GPU updates. I don't want to go through every single item on this list because we did that last time. But does anybody that is leading or working on one of these other things want to chime in on progress? Maybe, I don't know, Luna and team, if you're on the call, or Plator team, any of you guys? Go ahead, Jigar.
Yeah, so on a content moderation, yeah, we are working on it. So it's in implementation stage. And we'll also bring the Helm upgrade to Praetor as well. So that's the update.
Awesome. Any blockers or issues or things that prevent you from making progress?
Not right now. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, got the great support from Scott and team. So whenever we have some issue, we reach out to them.
Amazing. And then Luna, please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. So regarding the client libraries, we have everything ready. We are holding back on releasing because we are already using the latest version of the Akash Network code base. So until that is released, we can't really release the libraries. So yeah, we are kind of holding back. They will go live together with the GPU upgrade. Regarding the documentation, we should start planning how we will roll out. The migration is almost complete. We have addressed most of the concerns regarding design and the first version of the documentation. It's close to being ready to be generally available. So we should start planning out how we will roll out.
Very cool. Thank you for those updates. Adam Wozni, did you want to talk anything more about events and other things that you've been working on?
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of gave an update on the hackathon. So next week, we're going to be selecting community roles for support, both marketing it and managing the community in Discord and helping set up events for it. And then the timeline. And then the week after, we're going to start working on hackathon tracks. So you're all invited to those calls. They're in the Discord channel. On the event side, we have one event that's in the docket that's been approved as a part of the Q2 governance proposal. Gateway to Cosmos is about a month away in Prague. TBD on all of what that looks like right now. I'm just starting to reach out to community members. We have a working group call next week to just figure out if we want to go to this, if we don't want to go, who'd want to be there, and what roles they'd want to take. So if you guys are interested in participating in that, join the working group call next week. But the big thing I'm thinking about is there's about 2 weeks worth of events happening in Europe, both in Berlin and in Paris, around Ethereum and around Cosmos. So I'm starting to reach out to some of those organizers of those events, figuring out how Akash can plug into the activities and trying to see what side activities there are going to be taking place, both on the sponsorship level and just on the speaking level. So the working group call next week that we have for events is when we're going to be discussing all of that stuff. So, last note is I'm going to start working on a Q3 governance proposal for funding for events. It's preliminarily approved through the governance proposal we put out about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But we're going to be doing that quarterly to request budget from the community pool for those upcoming events. Yeah, so that's kind of where those things are at. Any questions on events or hackathon?
Yeah, I would love to review these events a little more in depth. I mean, we do have a proposal, right? Or like a discussion.
Yep, the proposal, the budget, the events the community has kind of selected for us to attend in. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool. Yep, it's all on GitHub discussions. The proposal, you can check it out on MintScan, what's been approved. There's a spreadsheet for how much these events should cost. If we look at consensus as an example, we only spent 25% of our budget for that event, which is good. We kind of overestimated for most of these events because it's not a perfect science. You don't know what you're going to get plugged into and what you can get involved in. So I expect that most of these events, the budget that's a part of it will be way under what we're actually requesting. And that money just goes right back into the community pool. But yeah, that's all public and available. I can ping you that stuff if you want to check it out.
And what about the actual how much we spent and how we spent and all those reports? Are they available online as well?
Yes. So Scott has actually been working on kind of a tracker. It has charts and graphs and what we spent money on for each of these events that you can review. Okay. I think we're planning on putting that public this week or maybe next week. I think it's basically ready to go. But it has what we're budgeted and what our actual spend is for each of those events and the items within those events.
Great. Let's also be very, very mindful about how much we're requesting because looks of it, we're actually underspending, which is good. We keep doing that. Let's keep doing underspending. We'll try to optimize. I was very impressed with the DML meetup we did at Consensus. Very low cost, really good turnaround. We had like 50 to 60 people that came to the event. Really high quality. We had analysts from IDG. IDG is one of the top 3 analyst firms from enterprise software. Up there with Forrester and Gartner. They're going to create a special category for Akash Network in IDG under cloud. I mean, it's very, very rare for IDG to create a new category, but they were so impressed with everything that's happening with machine learning and GPU, and they came to our event. So these events are actually working out, and we are seeing incredible results. We also hosted, we were able to attract a lot of decentralized machine learning protocols, the legit ones, especially BitTensor and Jensen and several other decentralized protocols that are well-funded and way out there to these events as well. So the results are incredible. I mean, I know you're doing a write-up. I did see the write-up that you did, Adam. So I think it'll be really good for us to not only just post the budget, but the impact we got out of these events and the follow-ups so that the community is, community can see the impact as well as give feedback, right? How we can improve and what we can do better and what other events we can do, right? I would love to get community feedback and involvement there. But thank you so much for an incredible job.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. And really, I give a lot of the thanks to the community. They're the ones helping kind of select these events and figuring out what we're going to do there. I'm just the Sherpa.
And also a quick reminder about community events. We do have Akash's white paper 5th anniversary coming up on this 13th. Akash white paper was published on March 13th by OverClock Labs, talking about the super cloud, the idea of a super cloud. For context, I mean, I would recommend please go Google what super cloud is, and you see a lot of like, attention and hype now for super cloud. But we were one of the original people that wrote, the idea of a super cloud in a white paper 5 years ago, right? I mean, the concept was created by Cornell University in 2015, but we really took that concept and we kind of like expanded on the concept by adding the marketplace component and whatnot, and it's blowing up, right? So we should rightfully leverage that, our position. And this this Saturday is the 5th year anniversary. I want to do something special. So I have a designer working on a NFT drop. Essentially, I think it'll be cool to just give like super cloud super 5 kind of NFTs, like 5 NFTs minted to people that would essentially celebrate this, right? So some idea I've been working on. It doesn't require any budget. I mean, this is OverClock Labs designer, but I think we can for people that are going to attend this event, maybe online one, maybe a call or something, should get these NFT drops, and as a record as a historical record that you came to the event, right? So anybody has any thoughts on how we can like maximize this event, please, I'd love to hear as well.
Super cool. Awesome. I know, Adam, you referenced that Huey was working on some charts and stuff. I don't know if you wanted to add anything more to that, or not at this time. Don't want to put you on the spot, but if there's anything else you want to add, feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically it's just a breakdown of flights, meals, sponsorship, and then I threw in live feeds of like the wallet balances, so everyone can track transparently what we got for wallets. Obviously, we'll be liquidating, so you can see how we're doing that. Trying to do it responsibly, and when markets are down, we won't. So, yeah, hopefully get that out public soon.
Awesome. Cool. And then let's see, anybody else want to jump in on anything else that's in progress, or anybody have any questions about some of the things that we have not touched on? I don't know. Adam Bozanich, did you want to talk about any of the stuff that on the stable payment side or anything at all?
No, I'm good. I think next time I'll have some more updates.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm working on stable payment.
Great. Awesome.
Max did join us
Yeah,
earlier on the call.
We'll switch back to one of the things. So the very first thing that Greg brought up, and I think many of us were wondering about as well, Max, is what are kind of your plans with the proposal that you submitted? We would, obviously still want to talk to work with you to figure out a way to make that happen.
Hey everyone. Currently, the plan is not very clear to what we're going to do with the proposal exactly, because we received like a bunch of feedback during the steering committee, which wasn't very clear exactly. Well, the previous meeting wasn't very clear exactly what was expected, I guess, or yeah, there was a bunch of expectations, but some of the issues that was brought were addressed, but I feel like expectations were not aligned with what we are proposing. So right now it's just a bit on the ice for now, but I was planning on like revisiting this soon, but yeah.
Can you be a little more specific of what part exactly was confusing and not clear?
I wasn't prepared for this, but I guess the part that was clear was that you guys are expecting a smaller proposal, more defined by project, and less of a like long-term to a quarter by quarter, I guess, project timeline. The thing that wasn't clear was, I guess, which projects you guys see adding value or not, or which of the projects that, yeah, do or don't pass in terms of how you see which project should be funded. So yeah.
It's not about which project should be funded. It's about how do we avoid reputational conflict of work, in the sense that if you're working on a certain part that adds to the ecosystem, we don't want another project to work on that. So you need to make sure there is no wastage of funds. And in order for that to happen, if we give you a blanket 12 months to whatever highlights you want to do, then we all know that things change so rapidly, and things have to change, right, in order for us to be successful. So the ask from the steering committee, in order for steering committee to support, we haven't rejected or denied anything. The steering committee doesn't have any control over what goes on through proposal or not. In order for the steering committee to go publicly support this proposal that matches our requirements, we need to be able to be a lot more specific on the ask, right? So what we're requesting is, you can club the projects into a single proposal. You don't have to like put a different proposal for each project. But I think every time you put something, instead of saying that I want money for 12 months, we want to be like, okay, I want to add this particular project, and this is the expectations for this project. These are the deliverables for the project. And we need X amount of dollars for this project. And you can put 2-3 projects in a single proposal and be very, very, very clear on the deliverables, so that the deliverables can be reviewed categorically in each steering committee, and based on that, the feedback can be given. But if you give a blanket like, I'm going to do XYZ in 12 months, there's nothing, the accountability for that is going to be extremely hard. And like I was holding Adam Wozni accountable in the steering committee about like, okay, you requested funds. I want to know exactly how these funds were spent, exactly the impact we got out of these funds. And before before the steering committee sort of like throws weight or approval behind another proposal, we want to see all this stuff, right? So we want to take the same approach where every funding proposal the steering committee has to support. Of course, I mean, if the community disagrees with the steering committee and goes and approves a proposal that's posted on chain, there's nothing we can do about it. But we would like to have a lot more alignment and cohesive message, right? So that's really the ask, to be more specific about deliverables and the timelines for the deliverables. And you understand timelines could differ. You could be delayed by months or whatnot. That's not, you're not going to be like held on a gunpoint because you missed a timeline. But I think it's really about avoiding conflicts. That's really the key that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I understand. I guess for the part that you said about not working on the same projects, like community funded projects, it's kind of a bit of a hard thing to do, I guess, especially when it's like well, it's not early, but I feel like it's early in terms of like the networks development of projects that add value, especially from the client side, or like the clients that use Akash. Of course, there's going to be like overlaps on some of the stuff. If you take console, for example, it's like I feel like we're working on the same things, but like towards the same goal, I guess. But it's good in a sense that it's a positive competition, and it could be
stuff like that, right? I mean, like, okay, if there's a conflict from console and CloudMOS, we want to discuss that in a public forum. We want to discuss the merits and demerits of that on a public forum, right? Exactly why we have these public meetings, right? And if the conversation and the discussion in public doesn't seem to be rooted in meritocracy, then we have a problem. But the fact that this discussion is happening publicly should give you confidence that merit wins over biases, and I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I guess we can make a new version of the proposal with the projects that I guess we'll see which ones are conflicted or which ones are not, or yeah, we'll see. I don't know exactly, but yeah.
I don't think we need to wait for the next steering committee. I mean, I think just like take maybe 2 or 3 projects, put that in discussion, and you are almost there with the last proposal in terms of projects. But please put that as a community, and we'll be able to, like, let's work on like a more asynchronous mechanism to do that.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you. And by the way, great job on shipping the testnet capability. It's awesome.
Awesome. I think that kind of wraps things up for today. Does anybody have any general topics that they want to bring up, questions, concerns, before we adjourn for the day? Okay, let's stop sharing and go ahead, Tyler.
Cool. Very quickly, thank you all again who joined today. For the steering committee, there was a special interest group around deployments that had one meeting in January, and then it was decided that that group may not be necessary. The group, the deployments participants have said that they would come back in a couple of months and determine if that group needed to continue. I just want to see if that group can be archived, and we have enough special interest groups and working groups going that can be archived. Deployments.
Yeah, I thought we already archived it, but yeah, we can go ahead and do that, I think, at least from my perspective.
Perfect. So we'll do that officially. Does anyone else have anything they want to talk about before we close out this 4th steering committee meeting? Cool. Again, thank you all for joining. Notes will be updated. There's a PR around them right now, and the recording and transcript will be available soon. But thank you all for participating. I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Again, if you need it, if you have any thoughts about GPUs, please join the working group GPU Discord channel, where you can find information about how to set up a provider. Just get involved in the conversation as we continue to push that forward. But thank you all again. Everyone have a great day.